Her silence was loud until she said 3 words I never expected. Hi, and welcome to Reddit Confessions. I didn't cry when she walked out. That didn't happen until 2 days later, when I was scrubbing burnt pasta from a pot I never even wanted to cook in. That's when it hit me. The silence. The echo in the hallway where she used to hum whatever was stuck in her head. Gone. Like someone vacuumed all the sound out of my life. The day she left, she didn't even slam the door. Just this casual, almost bored whisper over her shoulder. Don't wait up. I'm not coming back. I stood there in my worn-out socks, holding a Target bag full of her favorite yogurt. I remember staring at that bag like it was the last thread connecting us. Like if I dropped it, she'd vanish permanently. I didn't drop it. I set it down gently, like some fragile part of our marriage was still inside. 3 hours passed. I sat on the living room floor the entire time, hugging my knees like a grown toddler, staring at the place where her shoes used to sit. Always crooked, always too many. She told me she needed liberation. That's the word she used. Not space, not a break, liberation. As if being married to me was a form of captivity. She said, I'm an independent woman, Darryl. I need to live like it. She left the next morning with an overnight bag and a smile like she'd just booked a vacation. That was 7 days ago. Since then, I've been existing. Not living, not sleeping, just sort of being. There's a dent in the couch where I've nested. I started talking to the toaster. Maud, our cat, left a dead beetle by the bathroom door, and honestly, it was the most affection I'd gotten all week. I thought she was done with me. Finished. Moved on. She had that watch me thrive energy when she left. Posted cryptic Instagram stories like, growth isn't always pretty. I didn't reply. I couldn't even look. But then, at exactly 2:47 a.m. this morning, my phone lit up. Her name. No emojis. No missed you. Just the plain name I still hadn't changed in my favorites list. My heart hiccuped. I told myself not to answer. I told myself she doesn't get to do that, to leave and then just call like nothing happened. But I answered. I didn't say anything at first. I wanted her to speak first, to feel awkward in the silence she created. And she did. She sounded like someone who'd been crying for a while, but didn't want to admit it. I need you. 3 words. That's all. And just like that, the whole story turned inside out. But trust me, what she really needed had nothing to do with love, and everything to do with the secret she was about to unload on me. I didn't know what to say after she whispered, I need you. For a moment, I thought maybe this was it. Maybe she realized she made a mistake. Maybe she missed me. Maybe she saw my absence like a shadow stretched too long across her new independent life. I said her name. Once. Quietly. Like if I said it too loudly, she'd vanish again. Whitney, I asked. She didn't answer right away. I could hear muffled sounds, like traffic, then the hollow echo of a public restroom or stairwell. Her voice finally came through, raspy, low, unfamiliar. Can I come over? She said. I should have asked why. I should have at least hesitated. But instead, I said yes. Because apparently, I'm still that guy, the one who keeps the porch light on even after the house is empty. She showed up 26 minutes later, wearing a hoodie I didn't recognize, eyeliner smudged, holding a half-empty paper cup of what smelled like whiskey and regret. She didn't hug me, didn't even step inside right away. Just stood there, looking at me like I was a museum exhibit, familiar, but irrelevant. I didn't know where else to go, she mumbled. I wanted to ask, what about your liberation? Your freedom, your yoga friends, your digital detox retreats? I wanted to scream at her for gutting my life and treating it like an old sweater she outgrew. But I didn't. I just stepped aside and let her in. Because again, I'm that guy. She walked into the living room and immediately went to the couch like she still lived here. Her eyes scanned the room like something was missing. Where's Maud? She asked. She's under the bed. Been hiding since you left. Whitney flinched a little, like that stung. Good. It should. We sat in silence for a bit. She stared at the wall. I stared at her. Then, out of nowhere, she said, I made a mistake. I didn't breathe. Not even once. I just waited. She continued. I thought being free would make me feel powerful. But it just made me feel alone. Everyone I thought would be there disappeared when I stopped being their fun friend. It turns out independence is lonely when no one's clapping for you. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I didn't either. Instead, I asked the one thing I was afraid to ask. Is that why you're here? Her eyes met mine. No, she said. That's not why. And that's when she reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I need you because I need your help. I unfolded it slowly, already feeling the panic rising in my throat. It was a legal document. Not divorce-related. Not a restraining order. Something worse. It was a subpoena, and my name was on it. You're being called as a witness, she said. For what? I asked, my voice cracking. She looked away. Then she whispered, for what happened the night after I left. My stomach turned to lead. Because whatever happened, I wasn't there. But she was. And somehow, now I was about to be dragged into it. She wouldn't look at me. Even after dropping that bomb. A subpoena with my name on it. She kept her eyes glued to the coffee table like it held a script she couldn't memorize. My hands were trembling. My throat was so dry I couldn't even swallow. I wanted to ask her to explain everything, but part of me didn't want to hear it. Because I already knew, somewhere deep in my gut, that whatever she was about to say would drag me into something I couldn't clean up with apologies or microwave dinners. I swear I didn't plan for any of this, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. It just got out of hand. I waited. The night I left, she continued, I went to Derek's. I blinked. Derek, her coworker. The one she always said was just a friend. The one she grabbed drinks with on those team bonding nights. The same guy she once claimed reminded her of her brother, which, in hindsight, was a really weird way to make me stop asking questions. He said I could crash there for a few days while I got settled. I didn't want to stay with my sister again. And honestly, I didn't think you'd let me come back anyway. Go on, I said, even though I didn't want her to. Well, things escalated fast. The first night, we had wine. I drank too much. And I told him things I shouldn't have. About us. About you. She paused. He got weird. I sat forward, heart pounding. Weird how? Whitney stared at her hands, turning her ringless fingers over and over. He tried to kiss me. I said no. He laughed. Then he said something like, come on, Whit. You said you're single now. I shoved him. It wasn't violent or anything. Just heated. I grabbed my stuff and left. She looked up at me with watery eyes. At least, that's what I thought happened. I didn't say anything. The next day, he didn't show up to work. The police showed up at his apartment. And now there's this whole investigation. His neighbor claims they heard screaming. There's a bruise on his shoulder, and he told them I attacked him. I stared at her in disbelief. Did you? No, she snapped, then recoiled at the sharpness of her own voice. I mean, I don't think I did. I didn't hit him. I pushed him away when he grabbed me. That's all. Then why am I being subpoenaed? Whitney swallowed hard. Because I told them I came to your place that night. I blinked. You what? She stood now, pacing nervously. I panicked. They were asking questions, and I thought if I could say I'd already left and gone straight to you, they'd stop digging. I didn't think it would turn into anything. I didn't think he'd lie. So let me get this straight, I said, voice shaking. You left me, stayed with your sketchy coworker. Something happened between you two. And to cover yourself, you dragged me into it? As your fake alibi? She froze. Her silence was the worst part. I took a step back like she was radioactive. You know they can check that, right? My phone records. My door camera. I didn't even see you until tonight. She flinched. I know. That's why I'm here. I need you to say I was with you. That night. I was speechless. My ex-wife. The woman who told me she needed freedom, who walked out like I was holding her back, now wanted me to commit perjury to protect her from a situation she created. I don't even know who you are anymore, I muttered. Please, she whispered. If this goes to trial, I could lose my license. My job. Everything. She started to cry. And I, like the idiot I've always been when it comes to her, started to consider it. Because no matter how many times she broke me, I still hadn't figured out how to stop loving her. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. After Whitney dropped the subpoena and her desperate request in the middle of my broken living room, she curled up on the couch and fell asleep like nothing had happened, as if she didn't just ask me to commit a felony for her. I stayed awake in the kitchen, sipping warm ginger ale and staring at the cabinet she once demanded we repaint sage green because it was more calming. All it did now was make me feel sick. I kept replaying her words in my head. I need you to say I was with you. She didn't ask me to forgive her. She didn't even try to apologize for abandoning me, for treating me like a pit stop in her personal journey of self-rediscovery. No, she just needed a favor. One that could cost me everything. At 6:14 a.m., While the sun was barely starting to filter through the blinds, I made coffee and opened my laptop. If I was seriously considering lying under oath, and God help me, I was considering it, then I needed to know what I was getting into. First, I checked the news. There wasn't much, just a short article buried in the local section about a workplace misconduct investigation involving a man named Derek S. There were no charges yet, just an active inquiry. His picture was there. He looked smug. That same creepy half-smile I remember from the one office barbecue I'd forced myself to attend. Next, I logged into my front door camera app. Now here's the thing. I don't even remember why I installed the camera. We never had break-ins. It was just one of those impulse tech purchases I made after watching a late-night commercial promising peace of mind. At the time, Whitney said I was being paranoid. She said I had control issues. Well, turns out paranoia has its perks. I scrolled back to the night she claimed she came here, that first night after she left. My hands were sweating as I waited for the clip to load. It took forever. I told myself maybe she came in through the back. Maybe the battery had died. Maybe. But then it played, and what I saw made my stomach twist into something grotesque. It was Whitney, but she wasn't alone. She was standing outside, laughing. Her arm was hooked around Derek's. They weren't arguing. They weren't fighting. In fact, he kissed her. Twice. She didn't push him. She kissed him back. And then, they left. Together. No overnight bag. No tears. No fight. Just two people walking into the night like lovers in a movie. I watched it 3 times. I made sure the timestamp was right. 9:17 p.m. The same time she said she had stormed out of Derek's place and come here. It was all a lie. Every word. Not just a panic move. Not a misremembered detail. A full, deliberate, constructed lie. I sat there shaking. Not from rage, from humiliation. How many times had she done this? How many other stories had she rewritten to make herself the victim and me the placeholder? I wanted to wake her up and scream. Shake her by the shoulders and demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I copied the footage to a flash drive. Then I emailed it to myself with the subject line, reality check. Because I needed a reminder. A permanent one. That no matter how many times she cried, whispered my name, or said she needed me, it was never really about me. It was about control. It was about survival. And this time, I wasn't going to be her parachute. Not again. When the sun came up, I didn't feel relief. I felt the way an abandoned house probably feels when the morning light reveals its broken windows and empty rooms. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at her while she slept, like a stranger had curled up on my couch wearing my past like a hoodie 2 sizes too small. For the first time in months, I didn't feel desperate to win her back. I didn't ache for her attention, or approval, or crumbs of affection. I just wanted the truth. Not the poetic, convenient version she whispered between sobs. The real one. The ugly, jagged, undeniable truth. She stirred at around 8:40. I didn't speak. I just handed her a mug of coffee, her favorite, cinnamon oat milk latte, and placed the small blue flash drive next to it like a side dish. She blinked at it, bleary-eyed and confused. "What's this?" "Reality," I said. Her face shifted. I could see the flicker of panic before she even touched it. She picked it up like it might explode in her hand. "What's on it? You tell me," I said, leaning back. "I figured you could give me the story before I press play." She stared at me, then at the mug. She didn't drink it. She didn't move. "I saw the footage," I continued. "From the night you said you came here. You didn't. You were with Derek. Laughing. Kissing him. Leaving with him. You never came here until a week later. At 2:47 a.m., conveniently after things went south." Her lips parted like she was about to deny it. But she saw something in my face, maybe the hollowness behind my eyes, and knew it wouldn't work this time. "I didn't think the camera would still work," she whispered. That one sentence nearly made me flip the table over. Not "I'm sorry." Not "it's not what it looked like." Just a cold, defeated calculation that her plan had a blind spot. "You lied to me, Whitney. You lied to the police. You dragged me into a legal situation because you panicked. And now what? You want me to clean it up?" Her shoulders collapsed in on themselves like scaffolding giving way. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." He started telling people things, ugly things. "I thought if I could just get out ahead of it. By framing me as your alibi?" She flinched. "I didn't frame you. I just borrowed your timeline." "God, do you even hear yourself?" I stood now, pacing like my own body couldn't contain the frustration. Do you know what it's like to be treated like a doormat with a savings account? I gave up vacations to pay your loans. I listened to every insecurity, every late-night meltdown about how unseen you felt. I made you breakfast even when you didn't speak to me for days. And you repay me with lies and subpoenas? Tears started to pool in her eyes. But this time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't rush in with tissues or soft words. I messed up, she said quietly. I was scared. I felt alone. You left, I snapped. You chose to be alone. Then she dropped her voice, barely audible. I didn't think you'd still care. That hurt more than anything else. Because deep down, even after everything, I still did. And she knew that. She always knew. But this time, I didn't let it guide me. I'm not lying for you, I said. Not to a court. Not to the police. You want someone to clean up this mess? Call your independence. She opened her mouth to speak, but I was already walking down the hallway. I shut the door behind me and leaned against it, feeling my legs weaken. Through the thin wall, I heard her breath hitch, then the soft thud of her head hitting her hands. But I didn't go back out. For once, I let her cry alone. The next morning, she was gone. No note. No goodbye. Not even a slammed door. Just silence and the faint trace of her perfume on the throw blanket she wrapped around herself the night before. The coffee mug still sat on the table, cold and half full, next to the untouched flash drive. I stared at it for a long time, unsure whether to be relieved or sick to my stomach. Part of me expected her to come crawling back. Another part hoped she wouldn't. But what I didn't expect was the call I got 4 days later. It was from an unknown number, the kind that usually belongs to telemarketers or automated scams. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Mr. Bellamy, the voice said, firm and flat. Speaking. This is Officer Lane with Easton PD. We'd like to ask you a few questions regarding an ongoing investigation involving a Ms. Whitney Blackwell and an incident with her colleague, Derek Simmons. My stomach dropped. Am I in trouble? I asked, my voice cracking instantly, because of course it did. Not currently, but there's a conflicting statement in Ms. Blackwell's testimony. We're just looking for clarification. Conflicting. That meant she went ahead with the lie. She really did it. She used my name, my house, my kindness, to build her alibi. And now the lie was crumbling. They asked if I could come down to the station the next morning. I said yes, hung up, and immediately started pacing like the walls were closing in. I hadn't done anything wrong. But that didn't seem to matter anymore. I'd seen enough courtroom dramas to know that truth isn't always what matters. Perception is. And right now, I was part of a perception I didn't consent to. That night, I slept maybe 40 minutes. I kept seeing Derek's face from the news article, frozen in that smug headshot, and Whitney's voice echoing through my head. I didn't think you'd still care. When I showed up at the station, I brought the flash drive with me. The officer who met me wasn't unfriendly, but he had that worn-down expression, the kind people get when they've seen too much truth twisted into fiction. He led me into a small room that smelled like reheated coffee and dust. They didn't treat it like an interrogation. It was just a conversation, they said. But it didn't feel like one. Especially when they started asking me where I was on the night of the alleged incident. I told them the truth. That Whitney hadn't come to my house that night. That I didn't even hear from her until a week later. I even offered them the footage. The officer raised an eyebrow and asked to see it. I slid the flash drive across the table with the shakiness of someone handing over his own medical chart. He plugged it into a laptop and hit play. We both watched, frame by frame. Whitney laughing with Derek, arm in arm, completely contradicting her sworn statement. When it ended, he leaned back, rubbed his temple, and sighed. Well, he said slowly, that changes things. What happens now? I asked, dreading the answer. We'll follow up. This complicates her statement and weakens her claims significantly, but we'll need to cross-check everything. Don't leave town in case we need additional clarification. I nodded, numb. The words "don't leave town" rang in my ears like a bad dream. When I got home, I collapsed on the couch. Maud jumped up next to me for the first time in weeks and curled against my leg. I felt like crying, but the tears wouldn't come. I just sat there, a man pulled into a mess he didn't create. All because he once loved a woman who mastered the art of vanishing just before the damage settled. Later that night, I got a text. Whitney, I heard you went to the police. So that's it. You've turned on me? I stared at it for a long time before typing anything. Me, no. You turn on yourself. I just finally stopped protecting the person who was hurting me. She didn't reply. Not that night. Not the next day. But her silence? It said more than any lie she ever told. I thought it was over. I thought turning in the footage, walking away, and finally standing up for myself would be the end of the story. The final act. Curtains. Fade to black. But Whitney never did understand endings. She was the kind of person who needed the last word. Needed to feel like she still controlled the narrative, even if the truth had already escaped her grip. It was 3 days after the police interview. I was back at work, trying to drown myself in spreadsheets and pallet reports. Lumber doesn't lie. It's heavy, it splinters, and it always ends up where it's told to go. I envied that. I was in the middle of reviewing an order log when I looked up and saw her standing in the reception area, flanked by her sister, of all people. Tall, bitter-faced Lydia, who never liked me and never tried to hide it. Whitney stood behind her like a politician using a bodyguard to absorb the public's hate. I walked out of the back office and immediately felt a lump form in my throat. Not fear, just exhaustion. The kind that seeps into your bones when someone you used to love walks into your life again like they own part of it. "What are you doing here?" I asked. I didn't whisper. I didn't stutter. For once, I sounded like a man who'd finally lost the capacity to care. Lydia was the one who answered first. "You've caused enough damage, Darryl. You humiliated her. You let her fall apart." I almost laughed. Almost. She did that all by herself. Whitney stepped forward, eyes rimmed red, but not with tears, with fury. "I lost my job. They suspended my license pending review. Do you even understand what that means?" "I understand it's a consequence of lying to the police and dragging me into it," I said. "Which, in case you forgot, is a crime." Lydia stepped in again, like some human firewall. "You could have handled it quietly. You didn't have to turn it into a scene." "No," I said. "I had to protect myself. Something your sister's never been very good at doing for me." Whitney finally cut in. "I came here because I wanted to give you one last chance. Not to forgive me. I don't care about that anymore. I came to ask you to retract your statement." I blinked. "What?" "I need you to say the footage is misinterpreted. That it was taken the next night. That I did come to your place. You don't have to lie. Just bend it." "Why would I ever do that?" I asked, stunned by the sheer audacity of it. Her voice dropped. "Because if I lose my license permanently, I lose everything. My future, my career, my ability to survive. And I'll make sure people know you were the reason." I looked at her. Not past her. Not around her. At her. For the first time in what felt like years, I saw her clearly. Not the version I painted with love and hope, but the one she really was. Ruthless. Calculated. Ready to weaponize my compassion because she knew I still had scraps of it left. "You already told them I was your alibi," I said. "And now you're telling me to lie so you can rewrite the fallout." She didn't answer. That was her answer. So I stepped closer, close enough to see the mascara caked under her eyes and the flinch she tried to suppress. "No." Her mouth twitched. "Darryl." I said no. "You want someone to lie for you? Go find Derek." "Oh wait. You burned that bridge too." Her face collapsed. Lydia took her by the arm like a nurse escorting a patient away from a ledge. As they turned to leave, Whitney looked back one last time. "You think this is strength?" she spat. "It's just cruelty with better posture." I didn't reply. She left. I walked back to my desk. I stared at the blank screen. And then, I finally exhaled. Because the part of me that had clung to her, that piece was gone now, evaporated in the heat of her final demand. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of being alone. A week passed. No more surprise visits. No more late-night texts. No more damage control. Just peace. The kind that doesn't announce itself with fireworks, but seeps in slowly, like sunlight through old curtains. For the first time in years, I started sleeping through the night. Not deeply, not perfectly, but enough. Enough to wake up without that familiar weight on my chest. Enough to make coffee without feeling like I was making it for someone who might never show up again. Maud started sleeping next to me again. I started watering the plants. I unsubscribed from her Spotify account. Baby steps, but real ones. The police never contacted me again. Apparently, once they saw the footage and got my statement, there was no need. Whitney's case quietly dissolved. No trial. No headlines. Just a slow erosion of the version of herself she tried so hard to sell. I heard she moved back in with Lydia. I didn't ask anyone. I didn't need to. Some truths find you without asking for attention. The strange part? I didn't hate her. I expected to. I really did. But hate takes energy. And for the first time in a long time, I was saving that energy for myself. I started therapy, signed up for a local cooking class. I even joined a trivia night team called Custody of the Remote. Don't laugh, we placed third last week. And while I'm still figuring things out, still unlearning the reflex to apologize for things I didn't do, I'm doing it. Slowly, on my own terms. Sometimes, I still think about what she said that night. You think this is strength? It's just cruelty with better posture. She was wrong. It wasn't cruelty. It was finally choosing myself. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's version of the story, so be it. Because for the first time in years, I'm writing the story. And I'm staying in it. Thanks for watching Reddit Confessions. If you've ever had to walk away from someone you loved, or protect yourself in a situation where your kindness was used against you, share your experience in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. You never know who it might help. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful true stories like this one. See you next time.